just about everything.
Thank you. Well, you know what? It takes one person at a time to make a show. So what was your religious path?
I started off in a very evangelical, charismatic Christianity. I moved on, and this is why the political is important, to a more a fundamentalist Christianity. And politics is all throughout that. And you really have to have a grasp on politics. That'll help you understand what's the difference between liberal, conservative, the whole nine. Well, for me, my path was going from that till it got to a point where I had to move back from all of it and to examine what you do, Michael. You try to find out what the truth is.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, but it's like pondering your navel at a certain point. In other words, you can analyze things to death and wind up with no one but yourself and a dog too.
Absolutely. If you keep it simple, man, I got to tell you, you to me are the very nemesis of Obama, because he is all about subtlety. You are all about just straightforward talk. You don't care who hates. You don't care how people feel about it, or matter of fact, the more people...
Well, I know, maybe it's foolish, looking back 15 years of speaking my mind without any red lights on the roadway. It's gotten me in a lot of trouble, too, Oh,
absolutely. Well, wait a minute. Here's where you have to, man, I can't encourage you enough. Do you know that one of the main characteristics of Satan, the Bible talks about his subtlety? Obama... Here, the best reading that you will probably get, I don't know if you've read this before, it's an interview by this lady called Kathleen F-A-L-S-A-I-N-E, Fasani. But anyway, she interviewed Obama to figure out what he believed. And as a man thinketh, so he is. All you need to do is get into what the guy thinks, his belief system, and that tells you everything. He is so subtle. You don't know whether he's Christian.
Well, he's a politician in that regard. I've read Aristotle's The Politician, so I understand they're all the same in that regard. They never speak the truth. They speak in syllogisms, and they never tell you anything. They let you believe what you want to believe. But your own path, you started as a regular Christian evangelical. You became what next?
After I became a fundamentalist Christian. And
then what?
The church I was at, the guy was so heavy-handed. He told people it was like living in a dictatorship. That's what it was like, and that's why
I understand that. That's right. Religions can become very dictatorial and very hierarchical, which turns me off. Did you then become something different, religious-wise?
You know what? I almost became heretical if a Christian, a dogmatic Christian looked at me, and I was a dogmatic Christian. He'd say, hey, man, you're believing all these universal things. I guess I became Gnostic or a New Age belief. But I actually pulled back, and I started using terms like truth and trying to find out or what universal laws were as opposed to...
Well, what are you today? Are you a practicing Christian today?
You know what? This is really huge. I can't pull back so far while I lose my whole foundation. So
that's correct. But I'm saying, but you're still a Christian, I hope.
You know what? I almost lost it, really, until I started observing that.
But that's the problem, Earl. You'll find out if you disconnect your moorings to such an extent that you're floating at sea, you're going to have nothing. And then you're going to be in the sea of darkness. You may never find your way back. Don't cut that last line to that religion.
Savage.
Let's go to Palm Beach, where Barbara is calling. I think it's a fascinating call. Barbara, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Since I was 3 and 5 years old, looking up at the stars, I recall there were two things I was madly in love with: the stars and truth. And I was born and raised in a Roman Catholic family, not a devout family, devout practicing Catholic family. But then on my own, I'm 12 and 14 years old. I'm searching for the truth, and I'm studying on my own all these philosophies, Spinoza, Aristotle, everything. And I kept searching, and through the religions and all these different religions. And what the point I'm trying to make is that eventually through my life and my life experiences, I end up back where I began, which is the Roman Catholic Church. And then I understood it. You see, you have to understand, Michael, many, or if not most Catholics out there don't truly understand the Catholicism, the truth of the theology of the Catholic faith. Past few years when I was taking the Catholic Bible classes, I learned that my Catholic Church says this, that yes, Jews and Protestants and Hindus and Buddhas and even possibly some atheists will certainly go to heaven. That God judges the heart. He's going to judge us by the golden rule, how much we love. And this is very important to understand that concept. That's
it's a very accepting, tolerant view of the world. That's what I was trying to get at. And I think that if we haven't learned post 9/11 to be tolerant of others, it's going to lead to further disaster for all of us. Now, when I say tolerant, I don't mean let someone step on you or convert you to their religion against your will. That's a little different than accepting that their path may be right for them and wrong for you. That's a little different. But it's interesting you said you were always a truth seeker, and then you went back to your original religion, the religion of your childhood or of your birth, the religion of your parents, as it were, and you started to see the beauty, the deeper beauty, the deeper meaning of your religion, which is Roman Catholicism. Isn't that what you said?
Well, yes, but but I also wanted to comment, without looking for anything or expecting anything, once I returned to my faith and I started again resuming the practices of the Catholic practices of confession and Holy Communion, the sacraments, I had, without drugs, I was never into drugs, legal or illegal, and I've had some spiritual experiences happen to me without. Maybe you should have a show on that. Boy, will you get the calls.
A show on what, Barbara?
I'm sorry?
A show on what?
About people who've had religious experiences. Some like I didn't look.
I see what you mean. Okay, I appreciate what you just said. Thank you. Now that triggers another thought on my mind. Over the weekend, I watched the movie The Deer Slayer. The Deer Hunter, with Robert De Niro. And watch particularly the scenes in the church. The genius of the director here was that he used common people from that area and from that church in the film, mixed in with the actors. So that when you see a wedding scene, you're seeing the old geezer sitting at the bar from the town. And how they go over to Vietnam. And, of course, it was their hunting skills, their ability to use guns, and their ability to hunt that permitted them to survive in Vietnam. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The same thing was true. The same thing was true, by the way, in World War II, if you studied the history of our fighter pilots. Many of them came from farms they'd never flown before. But they grew up with a .22 caliber rifle, hunting small game. And I remember reading some of these pilots who flew the P-51s, the Mustangs. They said that when they went to flight school and then they went into aerial combat, it was the same as hunting a rodent or a deer. They learned that they had when they're fighting the enemy fighter, they had to lead the plane. They had to fire their bullets ahead of the plane that was flying across their field of vision, just as an animal running. Now, how are you going to teach that to a kid who never fired a gun in his life? How are you going to teach that to a kid who grew up complaining about everything, taught to complain, that he feels like he has an inner woman in him, and he has to get down and cry when someone asks him to do something hard? He complains, he cries, he sues, he goes back to mommy. How in the world can a country survive with a nation of imbeciles like this that we've raised for the last 20 years? How in the world can we ever survive?
You're listening to an encore broadcast of The Michael Savage Show. Michael Savage.
Afternoons 3 to 7.
On Talk 910 KNEW.
And online at 910knew.com.